Live from Latrobe Motorsports Studios, this is Ride Along with Howie, from the fast half-mile track at Latrobe Speedway, where it's grassroots racing at its finest. Here's Howie.
Thanks, fans. You know what time it is. It's time for Ride Along with Howie. Tonight, we got two special guests and a big announcement coming. But first, let's go into our first guest. You know, you can't make a woman wait. And we got the First Lady of Latrobe in the four-cylinder division, Tifani McElhose. Tiffany, welcome to Ride Along.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks for coming along. It's going to be fun. How's everything going?
It's going pretty good. Busy getting ready for race season.
I saw you've had quite a good off season, we'll say. Last race season, you ended on a great note, picking up the win at Fall Fest. And then, about 2 weeks ago, you concluded your college career.
Yeah, I did. I just graduated from Chatham University about 2 weeks ago.
Well, congratulations from everybody at Ride Along and Latrobe Speedway and all your fans and everybody. Now you got that, diploma in your hand. You can put 100 times focus into this racing. You don't have that schoolwork to deal with anymore. And I'll tell you what, last year we just saw great progression. Your second year behind the wheel of a stock car. And like I said, you ended up Fall Fest in Victory Lane in one of the biggest races of the year for any division at Latrobe.
Yeah, definitely. That was a really big race and a really fun race, an important one for me to win too.
And you were building up momentum towards it. It's not like you came from nowhere and won it. You've been getting those top 10s, and then you were getting those top 5s and consistently. And, we were saying a win was right around the corner, and it was coming off turn number 4 late last year, and you got that career first. And that had to be very rewarding, knowing all that time that you and your dad and your family put into that car paid off, and you got to celebrate out there on that front stretch.
Oh yeah, it was definitely really rewarding. Little nervous the whole race too because of all the cautions we kept having. I was like, come on, just one more lap.
Now, one thing people might not be aware of, when it comes to winning at Latrobe, that wasn't your first ever win. It was on the circle track, but you picked up many wins on the motocross track. Let's go back and start about the motocross racing. When did you start doing that?
So I've always rode with my dad. Like I would ride on his quad with him. My sister rode, my mom rode. We just went trail riding. Then I started racing probably 2008 and just kept racing. Started at Latrobe, kept racing. Then I went into the 450s, which is the top class for quad racing. I did really good there, won a few championships, then got into car racing.
Did you ever do motorcycle racing, or you've always liked the 4 wheels better than 2?
Well, when I was little, I got a dirt bike and I fell and burned my leg off of the exhaust pipe, so I was done with that.
Kind of ruined your bike career and your modeling career as far as lane models go.
Yep.
But like I said, you knew the Latrobe track, but a different aspect of it. You knew the infield. And when you started, there wasn't a circle track. It was basically a field that you would ride over to get to the motocross track. What were you thinking when Dennis and the motocross team, SMB Promotions, decided, let's do this circle track racing? Is this something that piqued your interest right from the beginning, or you're more worried about, is it going to interfere with my motocrossing?
Well, first thing I thought was, how are they going to turn this into a car track with how high the grass was when I saw it? But then Dennis talked to me at the one race and said, you should get into car racing. We're going to start it. So then a car came along and we started building it.
And what was it like to go and start building something? I mean, the quads you're buying already together, you might tell them, hey, we want these springs or shocks, but you're taking something that's meant to be off-road and keeping it off-road. The car, which made by General Motors, is meant to drive on the road, and you're basically redoing it to take it around in circles on dirt.
Oh yeah, we had no clue what we were doing other than what the rules told us at first, and asking a few people, what do you think we should do here and there?
How hard was it to go from being a champion, which you were in the quads, to starting back at the beginning, relearning everything, and not having any notes to fall on. I mean, when you started with the quads, it was you and your family, and you guys were all riding. You said that before.
Yeah.
Now in the car, it's you racing and not having a big notebook to fall back on.
Yeah, so it was like a new challenge for me. And it was a fun challenge. Like I wanted to like I said, I won in the quad, so it was a new challenge. I wanted to win in the cars. So every week I just kept trying to chip away at that and eventually did.
How hard was it that first year knowing, and if I remember right, you were doing some quad racing at that point and doing a circle track. Mentally, how hard was it when you go from being the person to beat to now being the one trying to beat that person?
It wasn't bad actually. Like I said, it was fun trying to work my way up to doing good in car racing. Quad racing, I could get the whole shots and do good in the races, but it just became too much trying to do both, so we ultimately decided just to stay with cars.
And I know that made your family a little bit more happier to know that you were getting some metal around you versus flying through the air on that quad with nothing except your hands holding on to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely made my mom feel a lot safer.
Now, coming from the quads, did it teach you more of how not to have a fear? That quad, it's you and the dirt. And you've had a few bad accidents. I remember the one night you hurt your leg, if I remember right, coming off the final turn towards the tabletop on the quad. I think that was actually the last night you raced the quad, wasn't it?
I raced the quad a few times after that, but I was never really the same because I was still a little scared of it. Never really practiced on the quad either, so I was always too tired. But yeah, I don't really remember that race that much, but all I know
Probably
is
good
I
you
got
don't.
knocked out.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's probably good if you don't.
Yeah.
Um, and then you let everybody, well, I got it on video. You want to see it? Nah, I don't need to relive that. I went through enough of it.
Yeah.
But when you're getting into the car, does it make you feel safer? Like I said, you got all that roll cage around you.
Yeah, it definitely does make you feel safer.
And what's it like when you go into the turn and you're throwing that quad sideways and you're throwing the car sideways? Is there anything that kind of maybe feels the same? I know in the quad you're the center, in the car you're on the far left, but just that sliding, does it anything cross over or completely different?
To me, it's completely different because the quad, you're basically hanging your entire body to one side to get it to turn. The car, you're strapped in and you're working your feet and you're working that steering wheel.
But instead of working your feet, you're doing it all on with your hands on the quad with
Yeah.
the throttle being up there and that and the
Hmm.
clutches and all that.
Yeah.
One thing, you're a family that races together, but did you ever race against your family?
No, I have never raced against my family. My family, nobody's ever actually raced. It was just me.
I thought your sister did a race and she said the same for me.
She did do one race when she was little and she pulled off crying.
And then your dad probably uttered those famous words. There's no crying in racing.
No, he never told us that.
Okay. Your dad, a great guy, and it's a unique relationship. You're setting you're breaking down gender barriers because in all sorts of racing, it's a male dominant sport. And here you are, you're winning championships in the motocross. Then you switch over the car. Now you're winning features. And I know that father son relationship because, I had it with my dad and other stuff. You just want to you get into it where you're almost in a fist fight sometimes. If you think it's so easy, come on, you do it. And what's it like with your dad?
I have told my dad that before. He got in the car one time, did not go quick at all, so he left me alone with going faster on the track. But no, we have a really good relationship. It's not, we never fight or anything about racing.
That's good. And it seems like you're you're not your normal girly girl. And I'm not saying that to be ignorant. I mean, you know, most girls don't like to get dirty. You look like you're very comfortable being at a dirt track. You're not worried about your hair. The only thing I can always say is when somebody mentions your name, I'm like, there's always a big smile, and you can tell she's enjoying this.
Oh, I'm always enjoying every moment I'm at the racetrack. And no, I'm not your typical girly girl. I've always worked on cars, so I'm used to this stuff.
I've seen you and your dad with sledgehammers, and I gained a lot of respect that day for you guys because, like I said, you'll jump right in there and you'll do anything the guys are doing, and you're doing it better than most of the guys, to be truthful. And like I said, not the typical girly girl. You went to college on an athletic scholarship. You were a lacrosse member, so athletics and competing is something that just seems like it comes natural to you.
Definitely, I've always been very competitive all through high school, everything.
What do you like better, being on a team sport like lacrosse or being a race car driver when you're getting out on that track? The team aspect's over. It's now in your hands. It's you got what you got. Where playing the lacrosse, you could always substitute in players per se.
Yeah, so I personally like just me being on the track myself better because, like, I control the situation. But also the team sport, I always liked playing with people and the friends you made playing with each other. But you also make friends when you're racing too. Like, we're all a big family out there.
It's funny that night when you won at Fall Fest. I didn't realize there were that many kids there, but every kid, little boy, little girl, was coming down. It was like you were a superhero. Not saying you're not, but those kids were just looking at you and they're like, "Wow, she just did this." And even other competitors were coming out, but it was the thing I always remember is the kids. And what's it like being a role model? I mean, somebody they look up to.
It's great. The kids are my favorite part of racing personally. Like, every time I see kids like playing or throwing the football, I'll go throw the football with them. If it's during Kids Club, I make sure every kid has a driver to be their partner for that day at Kids Club. Like, that's just my favorite part of racing.
And you spend a lot of time with your family, which I know is very important to you. And it shows a lot. Like, your sister, when you mentioned before she might want to get into a car, but she's there every week supporting you, whether it's on the quad races or the circle track, and your family. And it's great to see what racing has done. Basically help keep your family, I don't want to say together, but give you a lot of great quality time.
Oh yeah, my family, we spend all our time together. That's the most important thing to me. And my sister, I mean, even when she can't make a race, we FaceTime her. She was in Montana on vacation this year. She had people FaceTiming her the entire race. Like,
She's almost like the protective mom of you.
yep. No, our family, we're a very close family.
And mom, how does she handle the fact that her little girl is out there competing against all these boys and men?
She loves it. She might be, her and my sister, they're my biggest fans, definitely. My mom absolutely loves it. She's like, Tiff, can you like try this? She has no clue what she's talking about, but she's like, try this out there. This might help. Do this.
Mom ever thought about getting behind the wheel? We do have
No,
the ladies race coming up.
no, mom would never get behind the wheel.
Rumor had it, you were going to dress your dad up and put on a wig and let him run the Estrogen 100 for the moms and the women of the team. Is that true, or
No,
no ladybug movie concept here?
no.
Okay. Hey, Tiffany, now's a chance for you to go ahead and thank everybody who helped make your racing possible. And I know the cars, we talked before, you're going to keep the car looking the same. You like that look so the fans will be able to recognize it. But let's go ahead and talk about all those sponsors and the pit crew that helps keep the 24 going strong.
Yeah, I'd like to thank my mom, my dad, and my sister Sierra. I'd like to thank my boyfriend Adam, my sister's boyfriend Kenny, McElhose Racing, Ketchel Law, Magic Mike's Car Wash, Easer's Auto, King Forest Products, McElhose Auto Trim, MC Tool and Supply, and McCullough Tire, and just everyone who helps me out in the pits, and everyone who comes and watches the races every single weekend, and all the kids, obviously.
Now, when you guys go out, whether it's you and your boyfriend or you and the family, did they let you drive, or they say, no, you're good just on the track, we'll take care of the street driving?
So I actually hate just driving, which is weird because I love racing, but I hate driving. Anytime I'm with my dad or my boyfriend, they can drive. My sister, she drives. Sometimes I drive if it's me and my mom.
Are you sure that you're the one who doesn't like it, or they're just afraid to ride with you because what they've seen on some Saturday? No, I'm just kidding.
My sister will say I'm a bad driver, but I think I'm a good driver.
Hey, you got more trophies than she does. Just remind her of that.
Hey, that is true.
Hey, Tiffany, we appreciate your time. Look forward, opening night, hopefully this Saturday night. If not, Mother Nature looks like she's against us, but we're going to give it a try. You know that.
Yep. We'll see you whenever we have the first race.
We'll see you soon. Thanks again, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Howie, and I want to go ahead right now and thank all the companies that helped make Ride Along with Howie possible, including Latrobe Speedway, K2 Engineering, SMB Promotions, DJS Swag, and now I'm excited to announce we have a new secondary primary sponsor along with Latrobe Speedway. We'd like to thank Joe's Body Shop and Towing for coming up and helping keep Ride Along with Howie possible. Hey, we ask that you please support all the companies that support, whether it's a podcast like this or anything to do with racing, race car tracks, race car team sponsors, but please be sure to keep those who help keep racing possible. And again, a special thanks to Joe's Body Shop and Towing for stepping up and helping out Ride Along with Howie. Thanks, guys. Race fans, right now I'm going to grab a word with a driver who's been to victory lane on multiple occasions at the Latrobe Speedway, the pilot of the Joe's Body Shop and Towing, K7 Hot Shot, Naraka Decal, Chevrolet. This is the one and only Mr. E.J. Rozak. EJ, welcome to Ride Along with Howie. How are you today?
Thanks, Howie. I'm doing good today.
Hey, thanks for taking time to join us. Welcome to the Ride Along. And last year, a little bit of a hit and miss year as you were trying to get a new car together and everything, and you didn't get to do the full season. But I know this year, 2022, you're coming back all out, trying to get that Latrobe Championship. You picked up a big win in 2020 when you picked up the Pure Stock Special sponsored by Joe's Body Shop and Towing. And you took home, over $1,000 that night?
$1,500 to win.
Nothing wrong with that. That's a nice payday, isn't it?
No, I tell you, looking back over the years, I never thought we'd even have the opportunity to win a $1,500 win race in the Pure Stock division.
And you enjoy racing. And one thing with you, it doesn't matter. You competed at small tracks like Marion Center, medium-sized track like Roaring Knob, and big track like Latrobe. And that 77 is always going up to the front.
I think running the smaller tracks with my start of my career, you really learn a lot. You learn a lot about the technical aspect of racing, but there's nothing like the speed of a big half mile either. It's almost a lot to take in the first time you can send a text message going down the straightaway.
EJ, why don't you tell us about how you got your start in racing and when did you start racing?
So actually how I got started in racing, believe it or not, it's a funny story. Another friend of mine, Sean Smith, his wife worked at American Eagle, believe it or not, and I helped my sister that worked there after work doing some floor sets, and she said, I have a friend selling a race car, and her friend was actually the one and only John Redshaw. I bought my first car for John Redshaw as a roller for $5,000, and that would be in 2005.
Now, you and Redshaw, it's kind of funny. You bought your first car from him, and actually he bought his last car, not from you, but it was a car you had built back in 2011 or 2010 by Bullet Chassis. And You know, something about you guys, you, Sean, Redshaw. We see a car, but we got to check to see who's driving it because any one of you three can be driving it.
So all those cars came out of the same stable. It's kind of funny. They just seem to hang around. They seem to make a circle. But yeah, 2010, 2011, John Powell, Sleeper Chassis, built that chassis for me. We raced it for a good year in the street stock class. But unfortunately, the class back then was changing so rapidly, it was actually outdated in a year.
That's crazy if you stop and think about it.
We went from 8-inch tires and a 358 to a 10-inch tire and an open motor and a burnt transmission basically in a year.
So you took a little bit of time out from racing, and then you came back in what, 2020? You got the white car?
I believe 2019, Sean and I decided, racing was just hard for each one of us on our own. So Sean had a car without a motor, and I had a motor. We actually had a 604 crate motor that we put dart heads on, and we ended up winning 6 or 7 races with that car in between Dog Hollow and Roaring Knob in 2019.
That was the 23 JR chassis car, right?
Correct, which is the same car that I have now. It's the black 77.
So then in 20, you got your own car back together, which was the white 77?
Correct. And don't quote me to 2019 or 2020. I believe 18 I ran Sean's car, and 19 and 20 I ran the Maniac chassis, which was built by Sam McAdams.
How did you like that? I mean, you jumped around. You were in a car that was home built. You were in a professionally built car, and then you went into the Maniac chassis, which I guess is another production built car.
I tell you what, they're all good cars. Some are nicer than others in cosmetics, but in my honest opinion, if I get any one of those cars into my shop and put a setup in the car within reason, you can almost make any of those cars work. However, there comes a lot to the rigidity of the chassis and a lot of things like that, but I haven't found a car yet that we can't put up the front.
It's kind of funny, and I was teasing you a couple weeks ago. You were out and you went practicing and you had an issue with a car and you wanted to go racing. So you call your buddy John Redshaw, and you had a lot of motivation behind you. Your uncle, I believe his memorial was that morning, and you just wanted to get into victory lane because your uncle, big supporter of your racing along with your rest of your family and your dad in that. And that night you ended up winning a feature, and your old car, that the guy who owned it was about 7 states away.
Yeah, I tell you, it's funny. We actually didn't call him. I just kind of went up and stole the car. It was in my garage in storage. A lot of things transpired. We thought we had a motor issue. It turned out to be a bad oil filter. Of all things, a bad oil filter, $10 oil filter that caused us to not have oil pressure. And it happened within a race. So literally I was done. I didn't want to race. I thought we were going to not have the time or the means to pull the motor out. Saturday morning I got up, my uncle would want me to be racing that night. So I literally got up early, drove to Brownsville, ripped the 62 out of my garage, 4 flat tires, been sitting there in storage all winter. We put tires on it. We went over it as fast as we could with the 2.5-hour window that we had. We loaded it up and we sent it. And luckily everything stayed together and we got a victory in it.
So the way John Redshaw found out was he saw a picture of it on Facebook in Victory Lane.
That and I actually sent him a picture of the envelope from the winning sitting on the hood with 62 on it, and it didn't take him long to put it together.
Hey, it's great when you got friends like that, and I know it was very emotional for you to get that win. Like I said, your uncle who was there for your first win, and to get into Victory Lane on the night of his memorial, that had to be very rewarding and satisfying.
Yeah, it made the 27th feature win very easy to remember, and I'll never forget it. But it's amazing how all of them mean something, but some mean a lot more than others.
Now, 77, your number. How did you come up with it?
When I was a young up, I decided I was going to try the motocross racing out. And I walked into Miller's Yamaha, and the first three numbers on the shelf were sevens. And I ran 777 on a dirt bike, and I dropped the 7 in 2005, and I've been 77 ever since.
Now, but you just said yourself, you won in a 62, you won in the 23. But just through the years, everybody, I guess, recognizes he has the 77, which
I've always had my own cars. My own car has always been 77, but absolutely, I've been in a few other cars, a few different numbers.
And normally your cars are yellow in color. You did mention that you got the car you shared with Sean now is in possession of yours. That's the black Monte Carlo. What color is the new car going to be?
The new car will be the traditional yellow. My father loves that yellow. That's kind of something that I can do for him because he enjoys it so much, and it does look good on the racetrack. I'll give it that.
And your dad, one of your biggest supporters, always at the track and rooting on his son. And I noticed that you got a little Rozak pit crew, your junior fan club of your niece and nephew, and they're there also a lot. And you guys make it a big family night at the track.
Absolutely. You know, I was probably going to the track before I was born in my mom's belly. My dad's always liked racing. You know, when I was younger, we actually raced RC cars. And then I always wanted to get into go-kart racing. And my dad was afraid I was going to get hurt, in all honesty. My grandparents kind of didn't want him to do it. So I kind of put that fire aside. But as soon as I got on my own and got a good job and was working for myself, we ended up buying a race car, and the rest is history. You see how that transpired.
Yeah, and new car coming out. Hopefully this season you'll get it all buttoned up. And what's that going to be? Is it going to be another Maniac chassis or?
It is. It's a Sam McAdams built car. It'll have a lavish performance engine in it, like everything that I run. I have LP motors and everything. You know, Howie, it's been very stressful and demanding getting parts this last year and a half or 2 years. It's not easy, and it got expensive, but we are doing everything we can. I would say in a month and a half or so, we'll have the new car out on the racetrack.
And then what are you going to do with the old 77, the Sean Smith car?
What I would like to do, honestly, Howie, we still like running short tracks. We like going to Elkins. We like going to Marion Center, Dog Hollow, Roaring Knob Speedway. It would be really nice to not have to change gears every night on the weekends. You know, my father-in-law, he's usually at the garage here changing the rear ends out, the gears out while I'm at work. I mean, there's times I have to work Saturday. I will race Friday night. I'll work Saturday, and I have to come home and load the car back in the trailer, flip tires, hope everything didn't come apart from the night before, and go racing again. And you have to love it to do that because it's not fun. It's not fun when you're doing that.
And you mentioned your father-in-law. He's there. I see you guys always in the pits together. Your wife's there with you. Who else helps make the racing possible?
Man, I tell you what, I have so many people that help me out. My sponsors, my friends. You know, Mike Lavish always builds me a good motor, reliable motor. Joe's Body Shop. You know, I've been going down Joey since I was a kid. And I tell you, that's the other thing about most of my sponsors, almost all of my sponsors. All of my sponsors were friends long before they were sponsoring me behind the wheel of a race car. You know, it means a lot to have a friend and have someone that's willing to invest in you and follow you through one of your dreams. Because if it wasn't for all those guys, I couldn't do this. It wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work financially for me.
Now, what does the future hold? Do you want to move up? I remember hearing you were interested in possibly going crate late model racing and decided against that. And, you know, obviously you have the new car built, so you must enjoy the pure stock class.
I enjoy the pure stock class because to me, Howie, you can still build a lot of stuff. It seems like when you get into the crate lates, at least from what I know about them, I mean, you have to be spot on with the equipment.
Yeah.
and kind of it takes a little bit of the fun out of it for me, because you have to buy everything. You can't make parts. You can't, we make our own bumpers. I mean, if you're driving a Rocket, you have to buy, I mean, it's door bars, bumpers, you're buying all that stuff, which is fine, but it's not as much fun, and I'm sure it's expensive.
Well, racing's not cheap, even when you are able to do a lot of it yourself. And like you said, Mike Lavish and you guys have been friends a long time. You've been running his motor since you started, and 27 career victories. So obviously they must be doing something right down there at Lavish Performance. And, Bobby Naraka, he always has that car looking good for you too.
I tell you what, man, Naraka, he is amazing with what he does with graphics. I tell him I feel like I dropped a piece of crap off, and he makes it look like $1 million when it leaves, no matter what mistake I made making the body. He sends that thing out of the shop looking like $1 million.
And it's nice to have people like that in your corner. And it's crazy. When I see the black car, I gotta remember that was the white car a couple of years ago, and that thing really looks badass fast being black.
It is. My dad doesn't like it because he can't see it. I told him he needs to get better glasses, but it is a little hard to see on the racetrack.
And that's probably the nice thing about the bright yellow. I mean, your dad has a yellow Trans Am, you got the yellow stock car, and there's nothing wrong with the color yellow, that's for sure. Unless you're seeing it at a racetrack in the flag man's hand.
Yes, for sure. But it's just not those people that help me out. I mean, I have a lot of awesome sponsors. I got Dan Kaufman at CWC Welding and Fabrication. He actually did he welded some cage, some extra bars in the black 23 car when we decided to run it at Latrobe a little bit. I was kind of worried about being safe at Latrobe because it's just so much faster. Black Diamond Equipment Rental Uniontown, they stepped on board this year. They've helped me out tremendously. I got Risho Excavating. He helps me out all the time. He was just at my house earlier dropping off fuel. Sponsored me a 55-gallon drum of fuel.
Ah, that's nice.
It takes a lot of moving parts to make this work.
And you know what? We talked about the big win you had in 2020, but it had to be a little more special too when you got to take that trophy and that big check home when your one sponsor was the sponsor of the race, Joey.
Absolutely. And it meant a lot to me because that's something I could have gave back. That's something I got to give back to Joey after he has given me so much. And I tell you, it was emotional. It was very emotional to see him there with all his guys. And man, that was the first Joe's Body Shop race, and you can never win the first one again.
No, and you set that level, and just great. And we're going to see your dad doing his I call it the kneel down in Victory Lane, doing the kneel down in Victory Lane.
Yeah, my dad always kneels the right rear tire. That's been his thing, and I hope I get 100 more of him kneeling at that right rear tire.
And just so you know, I always have the tow truck on standby to help him up if needed.
He said he doesn't know how many more he'll be able to get up from, but I keep getting him down there anyway.
Hey, it's good for him. It keeps him moving around, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, EJ, I'd like to thank you for taking a ride with us here on the Joe's Body Shop and Towing, Latrobe Speedway, right along with Howie podcast. Thanks a lot, EJ.
Thanks, Howie. You have a great day.
Same to you, too.
Bye.
Fans, it's Howie, and I want to go ahead right now and thank all the companies that helped make Ride Along with Howie possible, including Latrobe Speedway, K2 Engineering, SMB Promotions, DJS Swag, and now I'm excited to announce we have a new secondary primary sponsor along with Latrobe Speedway. We'd like to thank Joe's Body Shop and Towing for coming up and helping keep Right Along with Howie possible. Hey, we ask that you please support all the companies that support, whether it's a podcast like this or anything to do with racing, race car tracks, race car team sponsors, but please be sure to keep those who help keep racing possible. And again, a special thanks to Joe's Body Shop and Towing for stepping up and helping out right along with Howie. Thanks, guys.